Welcome, one and all, to the Swords of Africa. Tonight, we delve into the Democratic Republic of Congo, and awaiting us at the end of this video will be a type of sword that might just be the most incredible, most inconceivable, most insane sword in world history.
I'll see you again soon in the room.
But before we look at any sword, we will begin by looking at knives, specifically the knives of the Mangbetu people, which is the culture we will be delving into in this video. The Mangbetu are one of the most well-documented people in the northeast part of the Democratic Republic of Congo, and their culture has had far-reaching influence in this region. And that influence extends to weapons as well. You see, a number of Mangbetu neighbors produce swords with holes in their blades. This particular custom may have in fact originated with the Mangbetu. Therefore, it makes sense to try to learn why they made holes in their blades. Unfortunately, despite the fact that I've read about the Mangbetu people in multiple sources, the reason for the holes in their knives are rarely addressed. One possible explanation is mentioned in a PDF titled Ethnographic Forms of Money, the KF Stifter Collection of Tribal Currencies. In this document, it talks about the Mangbetu knife that goes by multiple names, such as Nagata, Dupa, Trombash, Mbele, and even Mbele. Now, according to this document, it is believed that the number of holes in the blade could denote the number of wives the owner of the knife had. This idea that the document puts forth is interesting, but I think it's wrong, at least as far as the Mangbetu are concerned, and I know it's wrong because I can count. Yep, I can disprove this claim with the most basic of math, counting. In this historical drawing of King Mabunza in 1874, the king holds an Mbele that contains 3 holes. By the logic we just read, that should mean the king has 3 wives, correct? Well, let's look at another historical drawing from the same year, 1874. That guy in the center is the same king we just saw, King Mabunza. And every single woman you see in that front row are all of his wives. That sure looks like a lot more than 3. However, sometime after I recorded the audio you just heard, I thought about this idea more, and I was thinking that perhaps I was too quick to dismiss this idea about the holes. Because I remembered that there's a few Mangbetu knives out there that look like this. That's a lot of holes. So even though Mabunza was not carrying a knife with this many holes on that particular day that he was drawn, it's certainly possible that he had a knife that had a number of holes that equals the amount of wives that he has. It can be dangerous to jump to conclusions about things even if you think you have conclusive proof, because the reality is you might not be seeing everything there is to see, you know what I mean? Therefore, the number of holes in the blades could denote the number of wives, but it might not. It's hard to know for sure. That said, let's see what else we can learn. In the book A History of Art in Africa, it states Mabunza holds a spectacular sickle knife of a type known as Mbele, a symbol of power which is carried like a scepter. Such knives, often with 2 or 3 holes worked into the blade, were works of exceptional merit and highly prized for fine craftsmanship. The book goes on to say that the knives were often an artistic collaboration between the blacksmith who made the blade and the carver who made the handle. So it sounds to me like this book is trying to say that the holes in the blades added to the prestigious value of the weapons. As for whether any of what we discussed about the Mangbetu is true for the Boa or Angba or other neighboring cultures, we can't know that for sure, but there is certainly a possibility there. Now that we've brought up the Mangbetu, let's see what they can add to the sword list. This particular Mangbetu weapon might qualify as a sword. It's labeled by the Pen Museum as a dagger, but if you compare it to the sword in this image, it's about the same length, and therefore it's long enough to be a short sword. Unlike the more famous Mangbetu knives, this weapon does not have much info available on it. However, it may be an undecorated long version of a na membele. Normally, from what I've seen, a na membele, also known as a sapi, is a dagger which, among the Mangbetu, often has a carving of a woman's head on the pommel. The shape of the head comes from the Mangbetu tradition of elongating their craniums to express their individuality and status. Babies' heads were carefully wrapped in raffia fiber, which slowly reshaped their skulls and also changed the appearance of the eyes. This was considered very beautiful among the Mangbetu people, and therefore having this image carved on the pommel of your weapon gave it a very elegant look and a mark of distinction. Said weapons were the highly prized property of the Mangbetu aristocracy. It's worth noting that I've seen undecorated sapi as well, though even the ones that have a plain handle can be very fancy. Let's zoom in on this dagger. Do you see it? That's an abstract little dude forged into the metal, which kinda makes the blade part look like a big old hat. I love it. Now getting back to our previous example from the Pen Museum, I hope you agree that this is likely a na membele, but regardless of whether the sword is a sapi, I have actually for sure found a couple of sword-sized na membele. I also want to point out that both men and women own sapi blades. For men, the sapi were usually sheathed and tucked into one's belt on the right side, whereas for the women, the na membele tended to remain unsheathed and were mostly kept at home. Although, I have seen one photo of a woman wearing a really tiny dagger as a necklace. By the way, if you like the artistic figure carvings on many of these sapi, well, I got good news. The Mangbetu add these characters to many other objects of theirs, including instruments, pottery, and more. And to answer your question, yes, indeed, that pottery does have baps. Wait, what? That wasn't your question? Oh, I knew that. I was testing you. You want to know when you're gonna see the most insane swords in the world, right? Well then.
Welcome back. Would you like some coffee? Yes. On these sources is so now madness. Coffee,
Beautiful person.
Witness the first of the insane swords.
Oh, it's got a cute birdie on top.
Perfect for killing Goku. In all seriousness though, these are incredible works of art that come once again from the Mangbetu people. Considering their origin, you would think there was a ton of information out there regarding these things, but not really. None of the sources I found even bother to give a proper name for these things. But what I can tell you is that unlike many of the other swords we saw today, which could be both weapon and ornament, these blades were most certainly never used in combat. Furthermore, I know that women were equipped with these imaginative blades during a ceremony, but I do not know what this ceremony was called, nor do I know what its purpose was. The most well described of the group is this smaller double sickle blade from the University of Michigan Museum of Art. Though most of this description is rather basic, I will share the most interesting detail from it. On one side of the blade is the following inscription: Forovero. On the other side is Odrufa. Unfortunately, Google Translate does not know the Mangbetu language, but I have a hypothesis. These two inscriptions might be the names of the artists who made the object. Forovero might be the blacksmith who made the blade, and Odrufa might be the carver who made the handle, or vice versa. Now, traditionally African artists don't sign their names, but I've seen it done before, so it is possible. P.S. There was at least one more of these insane swords that I wanted to show you today, and I hope to show it as a 3D model, but due to some technical difficulties that I don't understand, my Blender files won't open anymore. So tons of 3D models I worked on for countless hours can't be accessed. I'm pretty frustrated about this, as you can imagine. Hopefully, I will figure out some kind of solution at some point in the future. If I do get things fixed, I will show you that other Mangbetu blade in a separate short video. Either way, I hope you enjoyed seeing these incredible weapons of the Mangbetu people. Now, let's see how our sword map is filling out. Looks like we've got plenty more to go, and even though we just saw what are arguably the most insane swords in the world, there are tons of other imaginative and really cool blades to see, so I hope you continue this sword journey with me.